Township of Bridgewater and posted on the municipal bulletin board. Please be aware of the Zoning Board of Adjustment policy. For public hearings, no new applications will be heard after 9:30 p.m., and no new testimony will be taken after 10 p.m. Would you please rise and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a few oaths of office first to take care of. That would be Mr. Kulak, Mr. Bongiorno, Mr. Fresco, Mr. Gajewski, and Mr. Vesio.
Bongiorno is not up this year. I don't think. He was last year, he got.
Says that expiration 12/31/27. How long is the,
Yeah, so not Bongiorno. Only those expiring in '28. For a new term expiring, right, in '28. All right, so it would be Mr. Kulak, Mr. Fresco, Mr. Gajewski, and Mr. Vesio. Okay, all right. Why don't you meet me down below? We have some room there. We can just swear everyone in.
Remember the days?
yeah.
Next on the agenda is the election of officers for this term. First would be election of a chair. Do I have a nomination?
I want to nominate Mr. Jeff Foos as the chairman of our board for this year.
Second. Thank you.
Second by Mr. Bongiorno? Yes. Was that, okay. All right.
Roll call vote.
Yes, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Foos.
Yes.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Mrs. Amin.
Yes,
Mr. Fresco.
Yes.
Mr. Bongiorno.
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski.
Yes.
Mr. Seacat.
Yes.
Mr. Kulak.
Yes.
Mr. Vesio.
Yes.
All right, well, that's yours.
right, thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
All right.
Welcome back to your chair.
You don't even have to move.
Yeah, I'm in the right seat. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mrs. Amin, for the nomination. I truly believe, and I tell my children, you're the company you keep. And I'm very honored to keep all your company, all your hard work. Thank you for everything you did in '24 and that we're going to do in '25. I'm really honored and proud to work with you all. And again, thank you for volunteering taking time out of your schedules for the Township of Bridgewater, and most of all, supporting me and Jim and Andy. You know, we want to make Bridgewater a better place. We want to save some trees. And, you know, this room is filled because it's a desirable place. People want to be here. They want to be in our town. And, you know, if nothing else, we give very fair, hardworking hearings. And it was very evident last year, and I'm proud to lead us again for 25. Thank you again. Next up, we're going to elect a vice chair. And it's my honor to nominate Jim Widley. Do I have a second, please? Second. Was Mr. Bongiorno. And Nancy, get a roll call vote, please.
Chairman Foose?
Yes.
Mr. Wadley?
Yes.
Mrs. Amin? Yes. Mr. Sweeney is absent. Mr. Fresco?
Yes.
Mr. Bongiorno?
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski?
Yes.
Mr. Seacat?
Yes.
Mr. Kulak?
Yes.
Vecchio?
Yes.
And Mr. Gabbard arrived at 7:05. Mr. Gabbard?
All right, next up, we have board secretary. Nominations, please.
I'm going to nominate Andy Presco again.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, good. Mr. Gajewski was the second on that.
Yep. I beat Bruce.
That's hard.
Roll call vote?
Chairman Foose?
Yes.
Mr. Wadley?
Yes.
Mrs. Amin?
Yes.
Mr. Fresco?
Sure, yes.
Mr. Bongiorno?
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski?
Yes.
Mr. Seacat?
Yes.
Mr. Kulak?
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio?
Yes.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yes.
And Nancy, last year you served as assistant board secretary. Would you do us the honor again in 25? All right. Do we need to do a roll call vote on that? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Nancy's our assistant secretary. Thank you for everything you do. You make us look good, and we really appreciate it. All right, we're going to appoint some board professionals. Let's do them bulked up. We have Mr. Aller on my left as board attorney. We have Bill Burr as board engineer, Catherine Sarmat as board planner, Michael Sullivan as our consulting planner, Bruce Eisenstein as our consulting radio RF engineer. We do not have the resolutions. They're not out of legal yet, but I wanted to appoint them pending next meeting. So all board professionals, please work with Savo Salk and make sure that we get those for the next meeting. Please bug them. And so we would open them up 7A through 7E, appointment of board professionals. And
I
it
move that we appoint him.
was Mr. Widley. Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Mr. Fresco.
Like a roll call?
Please.
Chairman Foose?
Yes.
Mr. Wadley?
Yes.
Mrs. Amin?
Yes.
Mr. Fresco?
Yes.
Mr. Bongiorno?
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski?
Yes.
Mr. Seacat?
Yes.
Mr. Kulak?
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio?
Yes.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can we just correct the record? When my nomination, I didn't have a second on the nomination, and we didn't do a roll call. Did you want a roll call on that?
Well, why don't we do that real quick? So to appoint Nancy Probst as the Assistant Board Secretary, I'm happy to make that motion. If I could have a second, please.
I'll second it.
All right, it was Mr. Widley. And let's do a roll call vote on Assistant Board Secretary. Yes. Yes.
Mr. Wadley?
Yes.
Mrs. Amin?
Yes.
Mr. Fresco?
Yes.
Mr. Bongiorno?
Yes.
Gajewski?
Yes.
Mr. Seacat?
Yes.
Kulak?
Yes.
Vecchio?
Yes.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yes.
All right, next up, we have our designation of meeting times in place for 2025. Jim, you
Yeah,
take
I
us
just
through
wanna
this.
Make a quick comment. We're going to keep on the schedule December 23rd, which is after the 15th. In general, we haven't held any major meetings, so it's really going to be just kept on there for any residential or cleanup end-of-year stuff. And no major cases will be heard at that point, because we do reorganize in January.
All right, I'm going to read them into the record real quick. January 14th, these are all 2025. January 28th, February 11, February 25. March 11, March 25th, April 8th, April 22, May 13th, May 27, June 24, July 8, July 22nd, August 12th, August 26th, September 9, October 14, October 28, November 25, December 9, December 23, bracketed residentials only. And then January 13th of 2026 will be a regular reorg meeting. All meetings 7 p.m., and they'll be in this room. I have a motion for those dates, please?
Yeah, I move.
Mr.
with the,
Widely?
December 23rd comment.
Second on the dates? That was Mrs. Amin? Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Amin,
Yes.
Mr. Fresco,
Yes.
Mr. Bongiorno,
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski,
Yes.
Mr. Seacat,
Yes.
Kulak,
Yes.
Mr. Vesio,
Yes.
Gabbett.
Yes.
All right, and the last bit of business here, we have the resolution for designation of official newspapers. Any changes or comments to that resolution? That should be in front of you. Could I get a motion, please?
Yeah, I move.
Mr. Widely, get a second for the newspapers? Second. Mr. Bongiorno?
Chairman Foose.
Yes.
Mr. Widely,
Yes.
Mrs. Amin,
Yes.
Mr. Fresco.
Yes.
Mr. Bongiorno,
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski,
Yes.
Mr. Seacat,
Yes.
Mr. Kulak,
Yes.
Mr. Vesio,
Yes.
Mr. Gabbett.
Yes.
Okay, with that, I'm going to request a motion to adjourn our reorg meeting. Could I have that motion, please?
I move.
Mr. Widely, a second? Second. Mr. Fresco. All right, we're going to adjourn our reorg meeting. Thank you, everyone, for your help on that. We're going to convene. The time is 7:12. Bridgewater Township, regular meeting, January 14th. Both adequate and electronic notice of this meeting specifying the time, place, and manner in which notice was provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Specifically, on October 19th, 2023, proper notice was sent to the Courier News and the Star Ledger and filed with the clerk of the Township of Bridgewater and posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board. Please be aware of the Zoning Board of Adjustment policy for public hearings. No new applications will be heard after 9:30, and no new testimony will be taken after 10 p.m. Nancy, could I have a roll call, please? Here.
Mr. Widely,
Here.
Mrs. Amin,
Yeah.
for the record, Mr. Sweeney's absent. Mr. Fresco,
Here.
Mr. Bongiorno,
Here. Yes.
Mr. Gajewski,
Here.
Mr. Seacat,
Here.
Kulak,
Yeah. Here.
Mr. Vesio,
Here.
Mr. Gabbett.
Here.
For the record, Catherine Sarmad, planner, is present. William Berg, engineer, and Richard Aller, board attorney.
All right. Thank you. All right, I'm going to open up the meeting to any member of the public that would like to speak on any matter that is not on our agenda tonight. And please come forward. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close the public portion. We've got one set of board minutes tonight, November 26th. Could I get a motion? If there's no changes?
I move with no change.
Motion to approve.
It was a min on the motion. That was Mr. Widely on the second.
Widely said.
Thank you. That was on minutes. That was a min on the motion? With- Yes, please.
Chairman Foose.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mrs. Amin,
Yes.
Mr. Fresco.
Yes.
Mr. Bongiorno,
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski,
I wasn't at that meeting.
Mr. Seacat,
Yes.
Mr. Kulak,
Yes.
Mr. Vesio,
Yes.
Mr. Gabbett.
Yes.
All right, we have one resolution. That's 10 Asante Lane. Changes, comments on the resolution? If
So
there's-
there are just two small edits. Page 3, second line from the bottom, Mr. Ardman's name is spelled incorrectly, and on page 4, paragraph 10, in the first line, where it says the applicants agreed that if any trees required, should be trees are required. So that word is missing, would be installed.
All right. Any other changes? If not, could I have a motion, please?
I move.
Mr. Widely, second?
Second.
It was Mr. Bongiorno.
Chairman Foose.
Yes.
Mr. Widely,
Yes.
Mrs. Amin.
Yes.
Mr. Fresco.
Yes.
Mr. Bongiorno,
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski,
Yes.
Mr. Seacat.
Yes.
I believe that was all the eligibility.
Okay. All right, we have two cases to be heard tonight. Those are going to be 1823 Middle Road and 1397 Coriel Drive. But first, I think the reason many people are here is we're going to allocate our new meeting dates to existing cases. So Rich and Nancy, why don't you grab the microphones? I know we've had some meetings about getting these folks scheduled, and let's get these dates out so the attorneys here can get them to their
Nancy
clients.
actually has all the dates, and I'll just say up front that each of these will be on new notice, except for the, I think there's two that won't be, but we'll mention those as we go.
Okay.
Next hearing, January 28th. We have scheduled the Starbucks continuance and Paul Miller, which is the Land Rover application. I'm sorry, new car dealership. February 11th.
So wait, Nance, so just one second. So the Land Rover actually noticed for tonight, correct?
Do you want to
So yes, so as we do each one, right? So Starbucks will be on new notice for anyone who's in attendance for that application. The Land Rover application was noticed for this evening, so that is being carried from this evening to January 28th, 2025, in this room at 7 o'clock. There'll be no further notice from the applicant on the Land Rover case. Okay?
February 11th, and that is 1200 Route 22, which has been carried, but that will be new notice required.
Right.
Rockland APV, which is a new application, not received their notice yet, but they did notice, they will be noticing for that date, Mr. Aller, so they won't need to renotice. Their
They'll-
scheduling notice was, they were advised to notice for 2/11.
Okay, so their notice will be the first notice, right? This is 2/11, okay. So with notice, yes.
And we'll also hear Visions and Pathways that evening. And they will be renoticing. So for 2/11 for now. February 25th will be 821 Bridgewater LLC and St. Bernard's, both of which will need to renotice as well.
What's the date for that?
That will be February 25th.
And what was the second one? Sorry.
St. Bernard's?
Okay.
Of course.
So Mr. Aller can speak to the applications that are continuances from last year due to the age. We're asking that everyone renotice because of the initial notice date, or the date of the initial 200-foot list at this point.
Right, so 821, a JCC case will be a new notice. Okay.
And we'll move on to March 11th. Will be Belly Holdings, which has been continued for some time. They will have to renotice as well. CX Towers had a change in council. At this point, I believe they are going to, they're not going to come in with a brand-new application from what I understand. So they'll be renoticing as well. And then March 25th will be Gurmuk Oil and Bridgewater Storage, and those will both be on first notice, so they do not need to renotice. They're in the process of noticing now. I think that's everyone.
That was everything.
All right, so all of those cases will be on new notice or their first notice, with the exception of Land Rover, which noticed for tonight and is getting moved to the 28th of January,
28.
right? 28th of January, right.
Rockland APV will not need to renotice, they're on first notice.
28.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It's either a new notice or a first notice, right? So there's going to be a notice to review, right? Okay.
All right, is there anyone here that didn't get a date, that has any questions on their meeting date? Any questions on their notice?
What was the Starbucks date again?
January 28th, 7 PM, this room.
I drafted is all laid out.
Yep.
Distribute that.
And while we're on it, Nancy has put together packets for the Paul Miller case and the Starbucks case. They're on the right. Please make sure you grab it, so they're not taking up space. She literally can't walk in her office, so she wanted you all to have it. And with that said, we're going to jump into our first case, 1823 Middle Road. Hi there, folks.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Am I supposed to talk into the mic?
Please, everything, there's people watching on YouTube, there's people listening here, so if you could put everything into a microphone, and maybe we can just start with your names and who you are and what you're trying to do.
My name is Mark Kravats, and I'm the homeowner of, along with Mary Ellis Kravats at 1823 Middle Road. And we moved in around 4 years ago.
Hey, before we get too far, hold on. Yeah, I need to swear both of you in, okay? So just give me 1 second.
First time doing this.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I do the architect. No, well, let me swear you in, and then we'll do that. If our professionals would stand, please, I'll swear everyone in at the same time. Would you all please raise your right hands? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Okay, my left to right, what do we got? Your name for the record?
I'm Mary Alice Kravats.
Mark Kravats.
We can switch
Someday.
later.
Someday.
Thank you. If you would like to sit, you
Yeah,
can
you're
sit.
welcome to sit. And there's also another wireless mic. If you want to use that, that would be great.
I just give the overview that you asked for? That you,
Overview? We're gonna, yeah, you tell us what your application's about. If you want to sit to be more comfortable, you can do that, you can stand.
Usually she says, hold it very close. That's,
I'm going to donate the mic to the town this year.
this one on? Yeah.
There you go. I think every town has that same microphone, that doesn't work.
Well, good evening. This application is for a variance from the bulk requirement for a rear yard setback. I can give you a real brief overview of the property.
I'm sorry, just, I want to make sure I have your name correct.
Roger.
You spell that for me?
Sure, G-R-U. I've never been asked before.
Yeah.
T-Z-M-A-C-H-E-R. Licensed architect since 1982.
And your license is in good standing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
In New Jersey.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, referring to the site plan, this is a direct copy of what was supplied to the zoning board. Drawing T1.
Sorry, sir, but let me just, for the record, I just want to state that I did review the notices, and the certified mailings were mailed on the 21st of December, published on the 24th of December, proper form, and so the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Okay? Sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, it's what we're talking about here is Lot 12 in Block 703. It's an existing residence, two and a half story residence. That basically there are 3 additions being placed on the residence, one on either side. As you look at the plan to the left, it's going to be an addition of another garage space. To the right, that's going to be an addition that will create a master bedroom suite on the first floor. And to the rear is a renovation to expand the kitchen and to provide a nice outdoor sitting area, which is enclosed, which you can see here as I'm circling. The reason we're here is because of the rear yard setback, which was always kind of a pre-existing problem. What's required is 85 feet. What we're showing here now, with the addition, we're now at the new rear yard setback is 75.57 feet. And it's just, there's a very dense landscaping area back here, and the residence that's located, I believe this is Ridge Road over here, that residence is another 80 feet setback from our property line as well. So it's well over 170, 180 feet away from what we're doing here. Every other issue in terms of impervious, FAR, floor area, we're all in compliance with the bulk requirement for the R50 zone. We are at a disadvantage here because the R50 requires 50,000 square feet. Our property is at 36,900 square feet. So that's a pre-existing Any questions on the site plan?
Board questions? No, we're good.
Here's a plan of the first floor plan. Unfortunately, the plan is reversed. So the front of the residence here, which shows the addition to the, which would be as you face the front of the building on the right side, the making the master bedroom suite, which is really, we're adding a bath, the bedroom, walk-in closet, to make that, like I said, a master bedroom suite. On the other side, they have an existing two-car garage. We're adding another enclosed garage. And then to the rear, you can see here, this is the existing rear wall. This is the addition here. This is the enclosed space where we're doing a breakfast area, expanding the kitchen, and an enclosed screen porch side there. There's also addition to the front. It's kind of a dormer off of the existing bedrooms. It's on the second floor. It just adds another feature to the front of the house. It's really the only, as you drive by, you're really not going to notice much to the house. Most of the work is being done towards the rear. But, you know, it just adds a nice little feature, and you'll see in the elevation when I show you. Up on the top of the sheet is the front elevation. All the existing building is here with the existing two-car garage. Here's the new garage element here, existing breezeway here. Here's the addition that's on the other side of the house. And that new dormer is situated here. Sits directly above the picture window from the living room down below. On the lower part of the page is a rear elevation, which shows our addition of master bedroom here. I'm going to provide a doorway out to a patio outside. Here's our enclosed porch area. It's a door that goes into the new garage. And here's new windows that will be off of the new kitchen expansion area. I'm going to give you a little read here. Here's our relief request. I'm just going to read it. It's already in the record, but
Can I just stop you for just a moment? As you were going over the plans, on the second floor, is that existing living space, and you're adding the dormer to provide not only some aesthetic value, but also give you a little more room? Or
it's on the south-facing side, so it brings in some light into that room.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to read this. The applicant is seeking relief from the rear yard setback in the R50 zone. The minimum required setback is 85 feet. The existing dwelling rear yard setback is 84.08 feet, and the proposed expansion rear yard setback is now at 75.67 feet. The minimum lot size in the R50 zone is 50,000 square feet, and the existing lot is 36,982 square feet. The property is undersized by approximately 26%, and the current dwelling's rear yard is only 0.92 feet deficient. The proposed dwelling expansion encroaches into the rear yard setback by 9.33 feet. The surrounding neighboring adjoining properties and their dwellings are significantly distant from this building. Therefore, it is our opinion that the minor encroachment at the rear yard does not cause any substantial detriment to the public good and will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the land use ordinance. And with that, I'll open it up to any other questions you may have.
Yeah, if I could point you to our professionals memos from January 7th, 2025, on page 6, I believe. Why don't we just go through and just knock out their questions? And, you know, you're welcome to respond with whatever you want. We're going to assume that you're going to accept all of their comments if you don't specifically address them. But, you know, back to page 6, you know, basically they want to know certain things. They want to know about drainage. They want to know existing conditions of the property. You can just, they have 5 questions. Why don't we just go through them real quick?
Go ahead.
Why don't you answer them and we can get you out of here? You haven't seen the memo?
I don't have it here. I don't have it here. I have to look for it in the file. If you could read it,
Well, this is why,
we'll comply.
this is why we give it to you in advance. So
Okay.
why don't I give it back to our board professionals, Catherine and Bill. Why don't you ask the questions that you guys need to be addressed? As always, water and drainage is going to be paramount. And let's take it from there and see if we can move this along.
I have your copy of mine. You want to take a second, take a look?
Yeah, page 6 is probably where you want to dive in.
Okay. Talking about F?
Yes.
Okay. We talked about item 1. You want to go right to number? Each one you want to address?
Well, why don't we talk about drainage and runoff real quick?
There's not a drainage issue right now that our impervious is under, but if we need to do something to retain what's being added, we'll certainly discuss that with the township engineer.
Bill, how do you want to handle that?
Well, I think first I want to know what the existing conditions look like. Where does the runoff from the existing dwelling and driveway drain to currently? Are there any existing, existing issues? Which it sounds like there are not, but I'd like to hear a little bit about the existing conditions, and then we can discuss.
Yeah, the property slopes from rear to front down towards the street. It's about a 10-foot drop from the rear to the front. We do have to do a little regrading with the addition, positive drainage back and away, but we'll divert all that, whatever drainage that is affected by the addition, bring it right out back to the street. It's a natural drainage out to the street, which is pretty prevalent in the entire neighborhood.
That's how the existing drainage functions. It flows down towards the street. Yes. And then there's a roadside ditch or swale. Is that correct? In front of Middle or no?
In the front of the house, there's
And do you, while I have you, do you, based on the plan and the additions that are proposed, will there be any negative impacts of the drainage runoff to your neighbors? No, they won't be impacted in any way. They won't, receive a direct discharge of the water. You're going to manage that through French drains. You're going to have perforated pipe with French drains around the perimeter of the. Okay. Yeah, I mean, drainage is obviously a concern for the board. We're not talking about, I think we're talking 17 or 1,800 square feet of new coverage as a result of this, so certainly it's a minor project. I'm encouraged by the fact that the applicant's going to put in French drains that are going to try to manage some of the runoff from the roof area, so certainly that'll help. Ordinarily, we'd look for the applicant to try to mitigate or address some of the drainage impacts, and it sounds like the applicant's willing to do that.
Okay.
So I'd be comfortable with that. Yes. I am aware of a lot of drainage issues in your neighborhood, so that's why I wanted to make sure that you were aware and that you're proposing to do something, which is great.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. There was a question on the shed. Can it be moved to be in conformance with the zoning requirements for the side yard and rear side yard setbacks for an accessory structure?
I believe right now it's about a 10-foot, both rear and side setback. The 25 is required.
Okay.
We could-
So that's a yes? Great. All right, and then number 5, from our planner, the applicant shall confirm how the FAR calculation was derived, providing the existing proposed building area is contributing to it. So basically, we just want to make sure that you're not going to have a density problem. We want to go through your worksheet. We want to check that the FAR calculation was properly derived.
Yeah, the calculation's right on the drawing. We've shown it on there.
Okay. Catherine, does that satisfy the township?
My question, I think I put it more in the body of the memo, less so in that listing, but unfortunately, I think in the most recent submission of the plans, and not that this was not the set I've reviewed, sheet A1 appears to be missing, which showed the basement layout. Or it was there, I swear it was there before, but it's not there now. And what struck me is that under that general requirements on T1, there was a note that the living area calculations are based on floor area measured within the exterior face of the exterior walls. Area calculations do not include basement, uninhabitable attics, or attached garages. So it provided a breakdown of the square footage existing, added, and the total, but our ordinance does indicate that if ceiling heights in a basement are greater than 7 feet, or it's usually an average of 7 feet, then those areas would be counted. And I don't have the basement plan in front of me, but I know that there are basement areas that exist and that are proposed as part of this addition. And I don't think the ceiling heights were indicated, so I'm not sure if the square footage is. One, the question is that area finished? Because it's not finished. Okay. Okay, so if it's unfinished, then that kind of clears up that question. Then it doesn't contribute to the
New work
FAR.
is slab on grade, so there's no additional.
Okay.
addition to the base.
Okay, so in that case, I think the FAR calculations are accurate, so that does, satisfy that request in the memo.
All right, very good, thank you. All right, the applicant shall address any review comments provided by the township departments, but not limited to the fire official, police department, et cetera. Did you have any comments from the fire department? No?
No further comments from board professionals.
All right, very good.
Mr. Luthwaite, our new zoning officer, did have comments.
Oh,
They were incorporated into the planning and engineering memo.
great, thank you very much. And I guess the last thing, if you could speak to, is the total square footage that's proposed. How does it conform with your neighbors? How will it fit in? I mean, the Spring Run area is an interesting place in Bridgewater because, you know, it has a homeowners association. It's almost a community within a community. Will it be in character, I guess, is my question with the neighborhood? Well, maybe you could speak to that very quickly.
Please speak into the mic.
You could just grab that microphone and bring it in front of you.
Yeah, the one catty corner, I face the house on Ridge Road. He's had quite a bit of work done it, but I don't have a feeling of how big his house is. You know, my goal is not to make the house look big, but livable. And on one floor, my wife has problems getting up and down the stairs. And as the architect had mentioned, that you're not going to be able to see the curb appeal isn't going to be improved that much other than the little dormer with the poke-out windows that we're doing more for an aesthetic purposes, because that's actually going to be in a room that we're presently using. That used to be in the master bedroom, but we're going to use it as storage.
Would your architect put on the record the total that the square footage of the home will have, and then, you know, compare it to some other houses in the neighborhood?
Just in my, when I visited the site and did a drive-by, actually I went around, I even went over to Ridge, even though it's kind of off to the rear. The house fits in it, it's truly in character with everything else that's kind of in the neighborhood. There are some houses that are quite larger than this, even with the addition. But the total square footage, once we're done here, is going to be, let's see. Bear with me. 'Cause I think I need to correct it because it looks like it's a couple of feet off because it shows does not include the shed for the square footage. So that 100 square feet, it's 6,528 square feet total. That includes all the impervious as well. If you just want the footprint of the house, it's 6,428 square feet, which is 17%.
Excuse me?
That includes second floor, first floor.
We're trying to get a feel to make sure that this isn't out of character with your neighborhood and your neighbors. So, you know, you put 6,500 on the record. How does it compare to your neighbors? It seems like a big number, 6,500.
That's the total.
Okay. So why don't we get that exact number, put it on the record? Sure. Talk about some neighbors, and then we can open it up to board questions and questions from the public. Ma'am, could you speak into the microphone, please? Thank you. And make sure that little green light is on, too.
The side of the house where we're adding on, not the garage side, that is a pretty big side yard. And there's still going to be plenty of yard space.
Okay. We just want to make sure we know what the square footage is.
Yeah,
We want to know how it compares to the neighbors.
right.
Mr. Foos, their plans are pretty detailed in that they provide a lot of this
Okay.
information on the cover sheet. Outside of the bulk table, they actually include like their construction code requirements
Right.
From an architectural perspective. But they note that the existing first and second floor square footages are 2,617 square feet, 2,617, sorry. They're adding 1,241 square feet, and that's going to be a total of 3,858 square feet. And I made a note in the review memo that there are some housekeeping items as it relates to the zoning table on that cover sheet. Easy cleanup stuff, but like it says that the footprint area of the house is 6,400 square feet. That's the improved lot coverage. So that just needs to match that other table in the front, but that'll clear it up.
Well, since we have you, I mean, would this house be in character with the other surrounding houses in the neighborhood?
When I did my review and driving through and looking at Google Earth and Google Street View imagery, I absolutely think so. It already had, the house already has, the house that this existing property has, already has kind of an added-on feel to it, the way that it's structured. So it has like a cape feel with the way it bumps in and out. So I don't necessarily think that from an architectural perspective, at least in my opinion, it will be bigger, but it will feel very similar to how it exists today in the architectural character. And as far as the neighborhood, I think it's similar. It's a similar feel.
All right, very good. All right, any other board questions?
I have a question regarding how it fits into the surrounding neighborhood. And please correct me if I'm wrong. This is a question to the architect. So I understand the existing structure, you had brick facade in the front, and you had a stone veneer. You had two types of materials, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And now you're introducing, looks like a clapboard siding and then a simulated shingle of some sort? Or?
Yes, the siding is going to be a certainteed vinyl siding. It's actually going to be a 7-inch reveal for the horizontal.
Mhm.
Above on the dormer side, it's going to have a shape feel to it.
Okay. So you have 4 different type of facade elements. I mean, from your expertise, how do you have any concern with that? And from aesthetic appeal and how it fits into the neighborhood.
I think it's going to blend very well. It ties in with the neighborhood as well. Other homes around it.
Okay.
You know, the differencing of, I don't think it has a serious, it's not a negative effect on the house. As a matter of fact, because we were doing the dormer, I'm very hesitant to do anything like that with stone. I'm not a big fan of the stone personally. It's there, and I think this will actually enhance the look of the house.
Okay. And this is a homeowners association where you currently are? Not a home, okay, so you don't require any sort of approval of the community for any work done at the home? There's no required, approval of the community, okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other board questions? All right, I'm going to open up to members of the public that have any questions or comments on any of the testimony you've heard thus far. All right, you can wrap up and we'll open up deliberations.
What I would say is just a repeat on, would certainly comply with whatever the township would like. Thank you for the information on the drainage. Doing a lot of work with the state, I'm very sensitive to that. That's why we took great strain to keep the impervious under as much as we could under what's permitted on the site. The whole look of the site, when I first saw it, the fact that there's such positive pitch here certainly aids, at least for the property. Downstream is a whole other consideration, as you know. But as far as affecting the property, there's no negative effect there. And the overall impact is de minimis here. I looked at some of the other homes in the area there. It's similar. The rear yard setbacks are very similar to what this one has. We far exceed the side yard setbacks. We're not encroaching into the front yard setback. That's an existing pre-existing condition. And overall, it sites very well on this property. It's typically an undersized lot. There would be more square footage permitted on this property, but we've kept it to a minimum.
And no tree removal?
I believe no tree removal.
Okay.
No, there's
Want to add trees? That's the right answer. All right. All right, with that, I'm going to open up the deliberations. And Rich, why don't you take us through any conditions and...
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, too, that the front dormer is a variance because the house already is sitting at about 59 feet from the front, right, where 75 is required. So when you go up, that's a variance as well, right? There were... Yeah, the front setback, yeah, for the dormer. The dormer is set back, but not 75 feet from the front yard line, right? Okay?
indicated on the architectural plans as a variance, which I appreciate because I might have missed it otherwise. It's not like they added a second story, but they did increase the building wall up along where it exists today, but that's still, it's in a pre-existing
So
non-conforming.
that wall's going straight up.
The dormer basically is going straight up, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's increasing the existing nonconformity, which is a new variance. It's very minor in nature, but in a technical sense, they should,
I just want to make sure we capture it.
they indicated the relief on their plans, and yes, I think that we should capture it.
And then there were two, sure.
It couldn't be, right?
It'd have to
Unless
be
it was
set
on the
back
other side of
about-
the building. The dormer is on the front portion of the house, right?
Is it set back 15 feet? Yeah. Or, well, no, we'll just amend it right now. We'll do it right now. Yeah, we'll just, yeah, I think it was on the plans. That's what Catherine was saying. It showed on the architectural plan as a variance for that dormer. Okay? That's why I just want the board to capture it in our vote. So you had the front yard for the dormer and you had the rear yard for the addition. Okay? And then we discussed two conditions. One was with respect to the shed, that the shed will be relocated to a conforming location on the property. And you will obtain a lock rating permit with the township engineer, okay? Basically, those were discussed in the report already. Okay.
All right, thank you, Rich. Mr. Wiley, your thoughts, please.
I drove past it, and in general, I have no problem with the application, so I don't have much to say. I'm in favor of it, so.
All right, Mr. Gabbett, let's start down to you. Good evening, sir.
I hope it's on. Nothing seems egregious to me. It doesn't seem like it's going to negatively impact any of the neighbors. It sounds like it's well within the character of the neighborhood, so I'd be inclined to support it.
Thank you. Mr. Kulak.
I would agree. I drove through the area. The neighborhood is quite charming as it is and eclectic. You have a variety of styles, but this fits in nicely, and the way the addition is going to be constructed, you won't notice much from the street, so I would certainly consider approving this.
Thank you. Mr. Seacat.
Yeah, I can understand wanting to increase the living space to one-story living, for, I guess, health concerns. So I, sympathetic to that. I have no concerns with the application and would approve.
Thank you. Mr. Gajewski.
Yeah, I would agree. The layout seems a nice way to accommodate first-story living. The only places where the variance is in the back. The nearest neighbor is pretty far away in the backyard as well, so it's pretty minor in my opinion. I would support it.
Thank you. Mr. Bongiorno.
I agree with my fellow board members. I think the variances that are proposed are slightly over what the requirements are. I don't have a problem with the application. I'm in favor of it.
All right, I'm in favor as well. It's a clear hardship. It's an undersized lot. I think it's going to improve the value and the livability of the home, and I'm going to vote in favor. Mrs. Amin.
It's a simple application of, technically it's only one variance but because of the second floor addition, we have two variances. Anyway, I'm in favor of approving.
Thank you. Mr. Fresco.
I concur. I echo, I'm inclined to support it.
Thank you. Mr. Vessia.
I'm inclined to support the application as well. It's a significant expansion of the house, but it appears that the lot can support that. It is an undersized lot from what the zone is, and the rear yard setback, what is proposed under the ordinance, is proportional to that undersized lot. So I'm okay with it.
All right. Based on the board deliberations, it's not like we have unanimous consent to approve. I would seek a motion to approve the bulk variances. That was Mr. Wiley. Second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Gajewski, thank you. Roll call vote, please. Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 All right. Congratulations. Good luck. All right, thank you. Have a good night. All right, thank you very much for stepping in.
Good luck to him. Thanks.
All right, we're going to move on to 1397 Coriel Drive, the D4 density variance and some bulk variances. Hi.
Right, sure, yeah. Yeah,
All right, you Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening, Chair and members of the board. My name is Christopher O'Brien, and I'm the owner of the property, the subject of this application.
Mr. O'Brien, before you get too far, I'm going to swear you in, okay?
Sorry.
And anyone else who's testifying on your behalf?
David Stires and John Menino.
We're all good? Okay. Would our folks raise hand, please? Raise your right hands. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you give to this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And can I just have everyone's name for the record, please?
Christopher O'Brien.
O'Neill? Can you spell that, please? All right, thank you. Oh, and for the record? Thank you.
And let's just check notice real quick.
Yes, notice was in proper form, served by certified mail on December 30th, published on January 3rd. And the one missing one, we got a signature on today. So we have jurisdiction. We're good to go.
All right, the microphone's yours, Mr. O'Brien.
Thank you. Located at 1397 Coriel Drive, also known as Block 602, Lot 12. I'm here tonight to request a D4 FAR variance and bulk variances in order to rebuild my home. My notice for this evening was published in the Courier News on January 3rd, and December 20th it was mailed, and today we received the last of the notices. By way of background, in the middle of the night on July 21st, 2023, my house caught on fire from a rechargeable battery that was being stored in the basement. Fortunately, we were able to escape the house, myself with sunburns, but thankfully, my wife and children unscathed. I tried to save the home.
All right, let me just interrupt. Can I have the date of the fire again?
It was July 21st to 2023.
23.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I tried to save my house, but because of the location of the fire, the damage was so significant that we've been displaced ever since. My family and I are active, lifelong residents of Bridgewater Township, and here tonight with the hopes to rebuild our forever home with the renovations and to remain in the township. We have proposed certain changes from the prior house, which we hope you'll see are improvements to the aesthetics, functionality, and safety of the home. My house is located in R20 single-family residential district. The improvements do require 2 new variances. These include a rear setback of 7.82 feet, where the ordinance requires a minimum of 50 feet, a floor area ratio of 0.228, where the maximum permitted ordinance is 0.16. In addition, the following pre-existing non-conforming conditions are proposed to continue. A lot area of 14,053 square feet, where the ordinance requires a minimum of 24,000 square feet. Front yard setbacks of 30.4 feet from Coriel Drive and 49.4 feet from Washington Valley Road, where the ordinance requires a minimum of 50 feet. As my engineer will show you shortly, my property is undersized and irregular shape and a corner lot. These features make it difficult to provide strict compliance with the township's bulk requirements. I feel that granting these variances will not result in any material detriment to the surrounding properties and neighborhood. In fact, the improvements will make the house more consistent and in line with the surrounding neighborhood. Further, the variances are not inconsistent with the intent and purpose of the master plan and land development ordinance. My engineer and architect will explain in more detail But one of the improvements proposed is the addition of a garage to my house, where one did not previously exist. The fire that destroyed our home was the result of a rechargeable battery that was being stored in the basement. The proposed garage would be a more appropriate place to store hazardous items such as rechargeable batteries and will promote better safety for my family and the surrounding neighborhood. Although these improvements do create 2 new variances, other pre-existing nonconformities will either be eliminated or reduced. Since I'm removing an existing shed and patio pavers in the backyard, the existing impervious coverage variance will be reduced from 22.6% to 22.1%, and the existing rear yard setback variance for an accessory structure will be eliminated. Overall, I feel the proposed rebuild is a positive upgrade to the existing house. Some of my neighbors have come tonight in support of my application, and they can attest during the public section. I also have with me tonight my project engineer and architect, who I'd like to call to provide additional testimony with regard to these improvements and describe in more detail with exhibits. I'd like to start with my project engineer, David Stires.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stires, good evening. You know the schmo here. All right, well, we accept you, Mr. Stars. Good to see you again. Mr. Stars, could you pull that mic closer to you? You can grab the whole body and bring it closer. There you go.
Hold it nice and close like this.
Currently, what you have,
Mr. Stires, before you start talking about that, let's mark that first, please, as A1 with today's date, and then just a brief description of what that is, please.
this is basically a colored rendering of sheet 2, the variance plan in the site plan set. There have been no changes to any of the details or zoning chart.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so existing conditions, with the exception on the left side, we are proposing a one-car garage. Currently, the existing structure is in the dark brown, again, with the exception of the garage on the left side of the subject property. There is an existing driveway that extends through that proposed garage all the way back to the shed on the north side of the property. So the elimination of that driveway extension is really the reason for the reduction in impervious coverage. The rest of the structure is expanded by going up to a second floor. So there's no other expansion other than the garage itself. And then in the back, there's an existing patio that will be reconstructed and kind of straightened out. It's a little bit dated. One of the comments that were that came up in the professional review is, are any trees being removed? There is an 8-inch tree in the corner of that patio, the proposed patio, that will need to be removed. It's kind of in a bad state. You know, there's suckers coming out of the sides of it, so it's not a significant tree in any means. Okay. With respect to the variances, I'll go through those, although Chris did kind of touch on each of them. The front yard setback required in the R20 zone is 50 feet. We are at 30.4 feet from Coriel, and it's because it's a corner lot, we're also at 49.4 feet from Washington Valley Road. They will not change, so they're pre-existing, but in listening to the prior application, we will be going up in the on this structure, so we will be requesting a front yard variance due to the expansion of the existing structure. I identified on my plan a side yard setback in error of the land use ordinance. The way the ordinance reads, on a corner lot, the shorter of the two yards behind the corners is the rear yard. So on the left side of the subject property, that's actually a rear yard, even though the house faces Coriel Drive. So it's a little screwy. In any event, the rear yard 50 feet is required. Currently, it's at 19.3 feet, and 7.82 feet is proposed. And then lastly, with the expansion of the house, a D4 variance for FAR is required. 0.16 is required. The current house is at 0.138, which is 1,941 square feet. And the proposed, with the proposed addition, we're going to 0.228 and 3,193 square feet is proposed. And I was talking to John Menino, the architect, and I understand that that includes the garage, which should not be in that calculation, so we're slightly less, and hopefully we can run a quick calculation to clarify that, and John can testify on that in the future. Another comment that was, a couple comments that were brought up by the professionals. One was the hillside development ordinance. My surveyor reviewed the topographic conditions on the property, and it is not applicable. We are under 10% slopes based on 10-foot contour intervals as outlined in the ordinance, and we can provide a certification to that. The other thing that was brought up is whether we comply with the driveway requirements. Again, this is an existing driveway with a slight expansion on the left side of the property, or the east side of the property, and based on the existing contours, the first 10% or first 10 feet of driveway, which is basically in the right-of-way of Coriel Drive, we're at 9%, and then we come up to just slightly under 15%, and the ordinance requires the first 25 feet to be no greater than 5%, and then you can go up to a maximum of 15%. So we would request a waiver of that requirement. I lived in town many, many years. Thursday night, I went to a meeting in Watchung and drove up Steel Gap, and I saw a lady with salt, out-thrown salt on her driveway with a slope of 30% or more. I'm like, thank God she's putting the salt out, because when she puts her car in that snow, she's going to slide right out the Steel Gap and probably right down the hill. But in any event, I think Sunset Lake and some of the slopes more so on the south side of the lake, there are a lot of steep driveways. This one, if you drive by, doesn't look very steep, in my opinion, and does not pose a problem with the Coriel Drive and sliding out. I think it's modest, and it does generally go down to 9% right at the right away. So we would request a waiver from that requirement. That, I think, is basically it from site engineering. Sorry, Bill. One other thing is the drainage. So what you have near Washington Valley Road is a high point. So the water on the on the Washington Valley side of the property slopes towards Washington Valley, and then there's a majority of the water goes down towards Coriel, and I would say from the ridge line of the house back runs to the neighbor's property. And with respect to that runoff, again, we're reducing it by about 60 square feet. So from this project, from this proposal, we would be slightly reducing the flow of runoff to the neighbor's property. We're kind of at the high end of Sunset Lake. Everything goes all the way down to the lake. So we're the last property in the Sunset Lake.
You're going to capture that and you're going to divert it to the street?
Well, I'm reducing it.
Okay.
So we're not really capturing it. The driveway slopes straight out, so it's a small portion in the backyard that would continue in that direction. And there is a reduction in impervious of that runoff.
How about the gutters and the collection? Where's that being dumped at?
Yeah, so there would be splash blocks at grade consistent with what's out there now.
Could you speak a little bit to the Sunset Lake area, just getting a feel for other lots? When I drove it today, and it's an interesting part of town, I just know, and maybe you can speak more to it, this is a vacation area. This is where people from New York City used to come and spend their summers. So it reminds me a lot of like a Seaside Heights or Point Pleasant, but in terms of how the properties are kind of split. There's very strange proportions and diagonals, shared kind of perimeters. And I think it was to maximize the physical number of houses that are there, and you end up with some irregular sized lots. Could you speak a little bit to the area?
Yeah, so it was created by, I think, Dr. Miner back in the 20s. Basically a vacation type setup, so smaller houses. Some of them didn't have heat when they first developed, and I think it complied relatively with the R20 zoning. Like you said, they were small houses on small lots, and throughout time, they put heat into them. They became, instead of seasonal, they were full-time residents for the Bridgewater Township, and slowly but surely, there's been a lot of expansion and additions to what was the 1920, the smaller cottages.
Yeah, so a lot of these houses are from the 20s and the 30s, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The lot behind this house, is that Route 78?
So if you look at the key map on the first sheet, there's a long, narrow lot that's undeveloped that is adjacent to the right-of-way of 78, and I think probably that was acquired to do the overpass. But if you look at the tax records, 2 lots down, that property owns that strip of land. So it must. I'm guessing that it was acquired after 78 was completed.
Is there any way a house could end up on that strip of property?
It's landlocked, but if they came through the existing property that there's 2 lots,
right,
they could conceivably, they'd have to do a subdivision or some kind of, flag lots are not permitted in Bridgewater,
Right.
so there'd have to be some type of board action for that to happen.
Board questions?
Could you help me with what is a gravel tracking pad?
That's soil erosion Somerset Union Soil Conservation District requires gravel tracking pads during construction, so when you leave the site, you don't track up the streets with mud. It's a temporary thing that will be removed.
All right, and I'm looking at page 3 of the variance plan, and it shows improved paved driveway, but it's like, I can't comprehend why it's so narrow.
Oh, I think we just expanded the existing driveway several feet so that it lines up with the doorway for the garage.
So
It's just a
I'm
slight
looking at
expansion.
pieces that are marked are in addition to the existing
That's
paved
correct,
driveway.
yes. Yes, there's a slight width increase.
Okay. One last question, if I may. The one-car garage, it's just under 8 feet from the property line?
That's correct, 7.87.
Is that the only place that the garage would fit?
Well, we worked with the existing driveway, and I think if you looked at putting the driveway on the other side of the house, you would be in close proximity to the intersection with Catalpa Drive, so there would be a little bit of a conflict either backing out of that driveway. So I think from that standpoint, the existing location is a safer location.
You couldn't move it forward?
The garage forward?
Yeah.
I would let the architect speak to that.
Okay.
Good? All right.
Can I add up to that question there? If the garage were to be on the east side of the house, how much would that approximately raise the garage level? And kind of would that actually impact kind of the design?
That's a good question. Right now, the garage is set at an elevation of 295. The house is set at 301.67, so, but there's some steps in the house. But the contours in that area are 298, 299, so I'd have to raise the garage 5 or 6 feet to get above the existing grade. And I think from an aesthetic standpoint, it probably makes more sense to have the garage.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. From an aesthetic standpoint, it probably makes more sense not having the garage as the focal point in front of the corner of Washington Valley and Coryell Drive.
Thank you.
Good. All right. Any other board questions? Board professionals?
Thank you. I just want to note that although it is strange that the rear yard setback is on the side, and I appreciate our new zoning officer kind of caught that, because I was of the kind of same impression as Mr. Stiers, that that was a side yard at first. It actually eliminated one of the variances. So initially, as submitted, when that was a side yard, and then the rear yard was what is now the side yard, there was 2 variances because it was non-conforming and in variance condition for both of those. So it's actually, as a result of that, despite being strange and a larger deviation from the rear yard setback, it actually decreased the number of variances down to 1. So I just wanted to note that. I think as Mr. Stiers indicated, I think a condition on the hillside development, a certification of the slopes would be, if this is approved, something that we'd like to see, just to include for part of the application material record. And I think everything else I have right now is going to be for the architect. So I have no additional questions for Mr. Stiers.
Just a couple questions, Mr. Chairman. So, Dave, when I first looked at this, and I looked at your zoning chart, seeing that the lot coverage was actually decreasing, kind of scratched my head a few times because I didn't realize, and I think you clarified it in testimony, that the existing driveway extends past the home on the left side of the home back to the shed, right?
And includes the garage that is proposed.
Correct. So that really, the removal of that extra driveway is what's going to allow the building to be expanded and keep the coverage where it's at.
Yes.
Can you, as a condition, if the application's approved, can you revise your plan to give a chart of the coverage, the existing and proposed
Break it
coverage?
down. Yes.
So break it down just
Yep.
so we can be sure and check that box. Okay. You answered the question about drainage with the reduction in coverage, but your testimony is no negative impacts to any of the surrounding properties as a result
Yeah,
of this
the
project?
only impact would be the property to the left here, and like I said, there's a slight reduction.
And overall, utility-wise, existing well for water, correct? For public water? Or I should say, for potable water, there's no public water. That well remains, is that the
Yes.
plan? And then public sewer, and there is a sewer connection now that will be utilized in the new build, or a new sewer connection will be proposed, do you know? Okay. One recommendation I would have is just to scope out that line, make sure it's in good condition.
I think it's old, huh?
And I would recommend that as a condition of approval as well. We've had issues with that in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Bill. Members of the public that have questions? Oh, please, please.
Mr. O'Brien, just a point of information. You said that the fire started with a rechargeable battery. Was it being charged, or was it just sitting there?
It was just sitting there.
Wow. You're lucky. Thank you.
All right. Members of the public, questions on Mr. Steyer's engineering testimony? All right, seeing none, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one question?
Oh, please.
Sure, sorry. The adjacent property, where is the building located on that property? I guess toward the rear of the yard, which seems like the side? The next part, how far is that building?
If you look at the key map in the upper right corner of sheet 1, I measured it, it's in excess of 50 feet off of the property line, so it's a little bit off the page there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, again, members of the public, please, come on down. Hi there. If we could get your name and address, please.
Debbie Perez, 1396 Catalpa Drive.
Okay.
I'm
Spell
like
your last name for me, please.
Perez, P-E-R-E-Z.
Thank you.
So Coriel's here and Catalpa's here, so my yard is like right across from them. When you were asking about switching their garage, you could not switch it to the other side because you'd be too close to Washington Valley where you turn to come in onto Coriel. It's a blind spot, and you would cause accidents. So you really can't switch the garage.
Okay.
And please, please, let them build their house again.
At the end of all the testimony, I will give everyone here an opportunity to use the microphone to speak for or against the case, and I promise you can come back and put that on the record. Right now, we just have to ask questions on the testimony, but you can come back at the end of the case and you can say the same thing.
But they really can't switch it because it wouldn't be safe.
Yeah, and Mr. Steyer's testified to that fact, and I was there today, and I agree with you.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on Mr. Steyer's testimony? All right. Your next witness, please. We can just get your name and your qualifications, please.
It's Tom Menino, owner and architect of Sermonera Architect, located in Hillsborough, New Jersey.
Okay.
Graduate of what was College of Textiles and Science and changed names to Philadelphia University and Jefferson University today. I have an active license in New Jersey and surrounding states. I've been in front of various boards in all the states that I'm licensed in. So.
All right, we accept you as an expert in architecture. Thank you.
Thank you. Just add on to something that Dave had showed before, more for Bill's comment in terms of where we're reducing some of the impervious coverage. I was just going to point it out on the site plan before I take the plan down from the easel. Yes, we're removing the shed, the pad in the back, as well as the extension of the additional driveway. But in the front, we're also redefining and reshaping the entry walk, which actually makes it smaller and shorter. And we're also removing what used to be driveway in the front of the house and making a larger green landscaped area. You'll see when we look at the elevations that this house used to have a single car garage that entered directly into what currently is the living room that was converted at some point over the years.
All right, you're pointing to A1, and is this A2 in our hands?
It will be. We
It will be.
haven't
I
gotten
just-
there yet,
Okay.
but this will be
All right,
A2.
just,
Yeah.
there's people watching at home, if you could just, when you're pointing to an exhibit, just say A1.
Got it.
All right,
This
thank
is
you.
exhibit- Yeah, this is Exhibit A1,
right.
sorry. Yeah. So we are picking up that extra green space there for some nice landscaping to soften the front of the house, and you'll see that change in the next exhibit. What I have on the easel now is an identical copy of what had been submitted as part of the application. It is drawing labeled A1 basement entry levels. I'm just going to talk through the floor plans a little bit so everybody understands where the existing and the extensions are being proposed. The main body of the house is really the middle part of this plan, and we are honoring most of that existing foundation area. Where you see a crawl space extension here, that is a rebuild of what is currently the enclosed porch. And then the garage expansion to the west that Dave had noted before. The way the building functions, it's a split level. So you enter into what would be the main family room space. You have a half a flight of steps that go up to what was the kitchen and dining area, and then a half a flight down to a basement elevation. Basement's unfinished. The ceiling height's only 6 foot 8 inches, mainly used for utility and storage.
I have a comment on that, but, hello? Bring that drawing back. The space that is to the right, all the way to the right, it says crawl space garage.
It's a crawl space.
Garage?
No, above this is the
Underneath
sunroom.
that one, see the
Garage
word?
is over here. The garage is on the left.
You want to read it on your drawing, what it says?
This says, oh,
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell
It
you.
should be
Remove that word.
yeah, we'll take the word off, sorry.
Okay.
We're going to strike the word garage
Yeah,
on the right
missed that.
side,
Yeah.
Yeah,
underneath
you
crawl
remove
space.
that word garage.
From?
Thank you.
All right, this drawing is architectural labeled A2, again, identical copy to what was part of the application, labeled intermediate and upper floors. The plan on the bottom, it represents the intermediate level of the house, which currently has, and we're repurposing, kitchen and dining space. To the right, the new sunroom, this is a rebuild of what is currently the enclosed porch. However, the enclosed porch is unconditioned. Some of it has to be torn down as part of the reconstruction of the burnt area of the dwelling. So we're going to reconstruct to make it part of the home. You then have a half a flight of steps that come up to what is the main bedroom level of the current home. Has 3 moderately sized bedrooms and a full bath on that level. The biggest portion or the biggest increase to the floor area that had been brought up earlier is the expansion of another half a level up. So this added level floor is the master bedroom suite. This is to provide for a master bedroom, master bath, master closet,
and an office space that really has become commonplace nowadays for those with work. So this provides the added square footage of living space that the family really needs as a growing family, and that's what we're looking to try to achieve here with this rebuild. I'm going to touch just quickly on where the extent of the fire was. I know it might be in everyone's interest. The fire, as mentioned, started in the basement, which sits below the kitchen and the dining area. The entire floor structure of the dining and kitchen area, as well as the supporting wall and beam, is all charred. Large hole in the floor. It all must come down through reports that were done. So once all that structure is removed down to the foundation, including the exterior walls, everything really needs to come down from a construction standpoint and then rebuild. And that's why we're trying to take advantage of being able to build that extra floor vertically. Any questions on the floor plans before I bring other exhibits?
What's the height at the highest portion of this structure?
The existing house?
No, of the proposed.
Of the proposed, up to the ridge from the lower level floor, from the entry level floor, is 33 feet.
Thank you.
But the average mean height to the slope of the gable, I believe, is like 27 feet and change. I have that written down.
With the reconstruction, are you reusing the existing foundations?
We are. We are creating a new foundation underneath the sunroom when we
Right.
remove the enclosed porch. And of course, we have to build a foundation for the garage expansion.
Okay, so that's pretty much holding you in a way to the existing footprint of the main house area. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the floor plans?
Any other questions?
Just get my pen. Okay, so in front of you, this is a 3D digital photo simulation rendering of the building looking from its entry driveway.
John, just before you get too far on that, I'm just going to, for the record, this handout that you gave us, we're going to mark that as A2 for the record, right? Which, well, why don't you describe what A2 is for the record?
Okay, so the Exhibit A2 is an 11 by 17 reproduction of the 4 architectural drawings that were submitted as part of the application, along with 2 11 by 17 renderings of these larger format exhibits that we'll be presenting. Would we make this one A3? The large one?
Yes, the large set would be A3.
So Exhibit A3, known as Photo Sim View from the Driveway. So on this easel, you'll see a before and after photo. On the upper right-hand corner is a photo of the existing dwelling in its current state, at least when we took the photo. You can see some of the windows boarded up and so on. Again, most of the fire damage is all internal in the structure. And then to your left is an after image of what we are proposing this remodel to look like. The front entry porch cover is actually over an existing slate patio, which we are maintaining, and we're building a cover over that. This entire body of the house that you see in this image is the existing body of the house, refinished with new siding. We are creating small dormer elements over the existing window openings of the bedrooms to bring them into compliance. They're relatively small now. We need to make them a little bit larger for egress out of bedrooms. Same with the 2 windows on the side here. They're the same window locations as is on the existing house, but again, needing to make those a little bit larger. Directly in front, you'll see that portion of landscaping with that Japanese maple image there. That used to be driveway, and if you can imagine how these used to be designed and built, this driveway went right into a small 8x8, 8x7 garage overhead door that went right into that level of the house when it was originally built. In fact, when we did our investigation, you can see where the old garage door used to be. We're taking that driveway away, getting some more green space and softening that area. And then to the left is the one-car garage that we are proposing. Really out of necessity. You know, you can imagine after the fire, what was being stored in the basement probably should not have been stored in the basement, but where else are you going to store it if you have nowhere else to go? And by providing an opportunity to get a garage here, it allows the ability to keep that stuff out of the main body of the house. There would be a fire separation between the body of the house and the garage, as we typically do. And the garage floor is at a couple steps lower than the main entry level floor. So that really kind of provides, I think, a well-needed aspect of this rebuild. Any questions on this image? It's a little tough to get a view from this side, but this is photo simulation view from the main road, Corral, closer towards the intersection. This will be Exhibit A4. So again, this is a real photo that was taken of the subject property before on the upper right-hand corner. And on the left is the proposed renovation. This shows more of the right side that would face the intersection of Washington Valley and Corral. And the bulk of the work here is really that second floor expansion above the kitchen and dining area. This lower level here used to be what is an enclosed porch right now that you can kind of see on the before photo. We would rebuild that and expand vertically to get the master bedroom suite up on the second floor. For the most part, the structure is going to be, horizontal vinyl siding and/or hardy plank, and a board and batten style in some of the accent elements. We'll call it a modern farmhouse look. It's getting popular nowadays. A little bit of stone accent along the base as the grade comes up along the east side of the property to help kind of anchor the whole element. Any questions on the elevations? Okay. I can go ahead and go through some of the questions that are on the report. I guess, it was kind of a combined report, planner and engineers. I'm guessing we'll start on page 7, which is where everything kind of gets itemized out under summary of project review comments and recommendations. I believe some of these have already been touched on in both the testimonies. The one thing I want to follow up with is there was a question regarding the square footage of the building. I have numbers here from before and after just to kind of give everybody a sense of reference. The entry level that everyone enters at was currently approximately 590 square feet. There's a slight increase of 615 square feet. That's due to a removal of a bay window and some adjustments to some area over by the front entry door. The garage obviously did not exist before. The garage is 364 square feet. So if that's a number that does not need to be accounted for in the floor area, that would be the number that we could reduce from our overall. The intermediate and upper bedroom floors and so on that are existing were 1,095 square feet. It's now 1,404 square feet. The number is different because that number now includes the sunroom. The enclosed porch is no longer there. We kind of lumped it in as one number. The previous enclosed porch was approximately 260 square feet. And then a new master floor, which encompasses the entire expansion of that added floor, is 818 square feet. So including the garage, as Dave had mentioned, existing is about 1,941 square feet. Proposed is about 3,200 square feet. If you reduce and take away the 364 for the garage, that gets you under the 3,000 square foot number. I'd have to do the math. I also want to touch on that, these numbers do not include the basement level. The basement level is unfinished and the height is only 6'8". In fact, we may even lose more height with the new floor structure that we're being proposed. We might actually go down to about 6'6". But we're hoping to kind of maintain the 6'8", just for utilities and such. I believe I touched on most of the comments and testimony. I'm open to either the engineer or the planner to point out anything specific you want me to touch on.
Why don't you give us a little bit of how this house is going to fit in with the existing homes in the neighborhood, other heights, other square footages? The FAR number, it's jarring. And I think that's something you're going to have to make the board comfortable with here going forward.
Yeah, obviously the FAR is an increase because of that expansion of that second floor. And again, also the addition of the garage. So the number certainly will come back down a bit once we take the garage square footage away. I think in terms of scale, 2.5 stories, 35 feet is your norm for many homes, single family and so on. And we're certainly in line with the scale of what is permissible. We're working off of the existing footprint. We're not expanding the footprint of the home, aside from the garage, which really is on the, I'll say the backside of the house, away from Washington Valley and the intersection of Corral, in line with its existing driveway. So we're not expanding the footprint on the site. And the only other way you could gain some real usable and needed square footage is to go vertical. They're a growing family who experienced what they experienced. Now, if we're going to rebuild for this forever home, we want to try to check off as many needs as they can, where before they really were kind of just forced into a small colonial type of home.
I'm trying to thread the needle here. You're not a planner, you're an architect.
Yep.
Based on that, can the site accommodate problems associated with the FAR greater than the maximum FAR that's permitted by ordinance? Now, I need you to answer that as an architect, not a planner, but with that said, you just gave an important answer that you're staying inside the footprint of the existing home. So therefore, you can accommodate this without detrimental effects to township ordinance, in your opinion?
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you very much. Board questions? Board professionals?
Yeah, John, just two quick questions. So when you look at the layout with the new garage, can you just describe for the board why the new garage is set back from the front of the building? Why is it recessed like that?
All right, so relatively simple answer. There's not a whole lot of wall space in this living room, family room area to really, utilize the space. And the garage elevation is about 3 steps down from the finished floor. So in order to really provide an ability to gain access to and from the garage, from inside the house to the garage, we really couldn't provide it out through the end wall, because we tried to keep the width of the garage as small as we could, 12 feet. We're not going very far for a single-car garage. So if we were to put a door here with a set of steps, can't park a car. So in order to provide that space, we pushed the door and steps to the back, made that an extra 5 feet wide to accommodate the steps. So we have a, relative, it's less than 12 feet inside dimension, an area that you can truly pull a vehicle in. Otherwise, there would be no way to go through the end wall into the garage and still make it viable. At the same time, there was a question that was brought up by one of the members about, it's been pushed back from the corner.
honestly. It was a means to get some daylighting into that room. We originally looked at trying to hold the front facade, but there is no windows into this lower level space. And right now, the existing windows that were damaged in the fire, they reside right at the end wall, which would currently be going into the garage. So by pulling it back, we're able to put in a window at this corner to at least get some natural light into that corner of that lower family room, along with windows and doors along the front and on the back. But otherwise, you don't have a whole lot of daylight that comes into that space.
Question about the FAR. 0.16 required, 0.228 is what's proposed on the plans now. We heard that that includes the garage space, which is 364 square feet.
Right.
Do the math for us, just confirm it. I get 20.1.
20.1, yeah. 363.25 square feet on the garage.
20.2 is what we got.
20.2, so is, I will request the same thing I did with Dave in the lot coverage. A chart would go a long way towards helping clarify that, but
Got it.
20.2 is what the ask is. Are there any other unfinished basement utility spaces included in that?
No, those weren't included
Or
in
it's
the
just
calculation.
just the garage?
Just the garage, yeah.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So you're satisfied that the board can now utilize a 20.2% FAR versus what's on our chart of 22.8?
I would recommend that the plan still be revised to show an updated chart. Based on the testimony we just heard, 20.2, I believe, is the number that the board should be considering.
And again, that was with the garage at 363.25 square feet, pulled out. Thank you.
Bill took all of my questions, so I have no questions for this witness.
All right, thank you, Catherine. All right, members of the public, questions on the architecture testimony you've heard? All right, seeing none. Your next witness, or if you want to wrap up.
I don't have another witness.
So that's your case? All right, very good. So we'll go through the stipulations, we'll go through the ask, what we're looking for. Oh, and let's give members of the public this opportunity right now to speak for or against this case. If you want to come up, basically the microphone's yours, if you want to say something. Thank you. That's great. So if you're raising your hand, you're in support? And you all live in the Sunset? Okay. There's nobody here from New York City or PA bust in? All right, so why don't we let the record show that there's approximately 10 to 15 families here in support? Is there anyone that would like to speak against this case? All right, we're seeing none. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. You're great neighbors. All right. Rich, if you could just take us through the stipulations and what we got to follow up on.
So if there's an approval, the conditions that we discussed would be to provide a certification that the Hillside Development Ordinance is not applicable. Provide a chart detailing that detailing the change in lot coverage. Inspect the existing sewer line and determine with the township engineer if it's in need of replacement. Remove the word garage from sheet A1 on the architectural plan at the crawl space. Provide a chart to identify the change in FAR, show it as 20.2% FAR and exclude the garage square footage.
All right, thanks. I'm going to open up deliberations, and just very quickly, I just want to put on the record, because there wasn't planning testimony, we did have an architect speak to the positive criteria for the D4, that the site can accommodate the problems associated with the FAR. In terms of negative criteria, I certainly don't think, and it was testified to, that it's not a detriment to the public good, nor is it out of character with the neighborhood. We also have many neighbors here in attendance, and we did not hear testimony to that fact. I also agree with the architect and Mr. Steyer's testimony that there's no substantial impairment or the intent or the purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance, and is certainly not spot zoning. I think it's truly a stunning piece of architecture. I think it's an amazing neighborhood. I think it's going to fit in. I think it's going to update. I think I'm also very glad your family's safe and able to rise from this terrible situation, and just to know that what's happening in California times 10,000, this is going to happen out there. It truly boggles the mind. So I wish you the best in your reconstruction effort, and thank you for doing a nice job with this case tonight. Mr. Wadley.
I'm going to agree with Mr. Foose and everything he said, and I'm just going to add one comment. Is I've been on the board 12 or 13 years now, and I really like when the residents come out and support the applications. It really makes feel like, you know, it's a whole community thing. Everybody's happy. I drove past there today, and I love the diagrams you gave us. It really helps a lot to understand, and I'm in favor of the application. I'm glad you want to stay in Bridgewater, and best of luck.
All right, thank you. Mr. Vesio, throw it down to you, sir.
Sure, I'm in full support of this application. You know, looking at the home that's presented, I know the FAR is over the zoning, but looking at the, you know, the proposed room sizes and the, you know, overall square footage of the house, you know, it is very, you know, it's for today's living standards, it's not a large home at all. I think it's a very standard size home. You know, the side yard we did speak about, or the rear yard, about the garage being very close to the property line, but I think with the constraints you have with the site, with kind of reusing the existing structure, you know, I think it makes total sense. That's what the garage is, and the garage size is really, I think, minimal, you know, for really a single, you know, car garage. So I'm in full, you know, support of the application. I think the architecture was very well done, and you know, best of luck.
Thank you. Mr. Fresca.
Yeah, you know, I'm familiar with this area. I grew up down here. I love the lake. I don't live far from here. I don't currently either. I think, Mr. O'Brien, I think you did a great job. I think you got a great engineer. You got a great architect, and you made it hard for us, obviously, to say no to this. So I do support it. I think it's a great design, and I think it's a unique lot. And I do actually think that, despite the FAR, and I think it's funny that Mr. Sweeney's not here, because, you know, if Mr. Sweeney was here, it might have been a tougher case for you. But I do think it actually supports it. I really do. I hope this is the toughest part of the journey, but, you know, you got a lot of work to do, so good luck.
Thank you. Mrs. Amin.
Yeah, given the condition, existing condition, the lot is much smaller than what's required. That's why you have to go through all these variances. And when I'm looking at it, it's only very simple variance. And I'm in favor of approving the application.
Thank you, Mrs. Amin. Mr. Bongiorno.
These undersized lots make it very challenging to shoehorn a nice house into the existing property that's there. I think the architect did a great job. I think it's going to look nice, fitting well with the neighborhood. Good luck, and I'm in favor of the applicant.
Thank you. Mr. Gajewski.
And I agree with all the other board members that I think placement 2 on the variance on the side yard, the other house directly next to you is favoring that side of the yard as well. So I think it's a unique situation there, and I think you did absolute best you possibly could have done refitting a bi-level, and I wish you the best of luck. I'm in favor of the application.
Thank you. Mr. Seacat.
Sure. Yeah, I can definitely support the application. I think maybe there's some tweaks that could have been made on the visual design, but I will let that slide, so I will support.
What a guy. Mr. Kulak.
I would agree with the other board members. This is really a nice addition to the neighborhood. It's a house that's being resurrected literally from the ashes and being put to not only more productive and aesthetic use, it's just a great addition. I would fully support this.
Well, first and foremost, I'm glad that your injuries were minor, that your family was unscathed, so I'm grateful to hear that. Yeah, the small lots are strange, for sure, but this proposal, the house looks beautiful. Clearly, the people impacted most are in favor of it. Your neighbors, I'm really impressed to see how many of you came out. That's really great. I would definitely be in favor of this.
Based on the testimony of the board, the deliberations, it sounds like we have a motion to approve on the table. Does anyone want to make that motion? Mr. Widley, have a second, please.
Second.
Mr. Fresco? Thank you, Mr. Fresco.
Well, we didn't vote yet.
We didn't vote yet.
Chairman Foose?
Yes.
Mr. Wadley?
Yes.
Zamin?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney? I'm sorry. Mr. Fresco?
Yes.
Mr. Bongiorno?
Yes.
Mr. Gajewski?
Yes.
And Mr. Seacat?
Yes.
All right. Mr. O'Brien, good luck to you. Thank you, everyone. Good seeing you, the experts again. Have a good night and good luck. Now, all right. All right, and thank you, members of the public, for coming out and its support. It's always very helpful. All right, with that said, our next meeting, 7 p.m., January 28th, we're going to hear Starbucks, we're going to hear Paul Miller Land Rover, and if there's no other board business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
All right, do I have a second? Mr. Bongiorno. Thank you, everyone.
And we need to get kits. You gotta get copies there.
Everyone on the right side, please grab your packets for the next hearing. Yeah, your goodie bags, your swag.
Yeah.